Last fall, my friends Todd and Helen Wilson published a book about Pittsburgh's bridges. I developed a small black and white locator map for their book, as well as a poster showing the city's river bridges. One major drawback with those printed maps is that they show all of the river bridges that ever existed in the city on one map. I wanted to create a way for users to explore how the city's bridge landscape has changed over time. In honor of the city of Pittsburgh's 200th birthday and this year's NACE's conference theme of Mapping Change, I developed an interactive map showing the evolution of Pittsburgh's river bridges. The map is a digital companion to Todd and Helen's book, allowing users to learn about the city's river bridges through a more interactive experience. My target user is a local historian or bridge enthusiast interested in learning more about the history of Pittsburgh's river bridges. A user could be visiting the site to learn about a specific bridge or to learn how the city's river bridge landscape has evolved over its 200-year history. Now that the site is developed, I'm excited to share it with the city and local history organizations. When the map first opens, it shows the bridges that exist today. The bridges are symbolized by their design type, so you can easily see which bridges are metal trusses, which are arches, suspension bridges, and girders. I specifically kept the background light and chose not to include the historic maps that I was planning to, so that the bridge points would be the real star of the map. You can hover over bridges to see their name, year built, and year demolished, or you can click a bridge to get a photo and more information. As I was looking through Todd and Helen's book for information to include in the descriptions, I wanted to focus on interesting stories about each bridge as opposed to engineering specifics. For example, if you look at the McKees Rocks Bridge, you see that it was one of the longest in the country when it was built. As you select a bridge, it's shown in a larger circle with a cyan highlight, so you can see the location of the bridge that you're viewing in the Details panel. You can close the Details panel to remove the information and the map affordance. A slider bar covers the 200-year history of the city, 1816 to 2016. As you scroll the slider back in time, the map updates to display river bridges as they existed in the given year. Given year updates, the slider bar moves, and the bridge data matches. If a bridge was demolished, it's not shown. If a bridge wasn't built yet, it's not shown. If you scroll back far enough, you can see when the city only had a few wooden covered bridges. Just as before, you can click on the bridge to get more information. To help identify new bridges, I added a yellow highlight for bridges built within 5 years of the selected year. With this highlighting, the map allows for data exploration not easily possible in a book or printed map. For example, as you scroll forward past the 1800s to around 1900 to 1910, you can see that this was about really the golden age of the city's bridge building, which makes sense given the city's importance as an industrial steel powerhouse at the time. You can see that really maybe 10 bridges were built within the 5 years around 1905. It's also fascinating to see when bridges were first built in a particular area. It's interesting to see as you scroll back, there are very, very few bridges outside of the downtown, which makes sense. You can also see as a particular area develops, bridges start to emerge in a particular location, for example, Hers Island here. Curiously, there were no bridges on the Ohio River at all until the late 1800s, and no vehicular bridges on the Ohio River until the 1930s. When the McKees Rocks Bridge was built, it was one of the longest in the country, over 1 mile long. That's why it took so long to put it there. Users focusing on a particular area can zoom in and use the time slider. For example, if you zoom into the point, you can scroll through the 3 generations of point bridges. Scroll back. Here are the first generations of bridges, the Union Bridge over the Allegheny, and the first point bridge over the Monongahela. Scrolling forward, you get to the next generation of bridges, the Manchester and the second point bridge. And if you go to the current year, this is the current generation of the city's point bridges, the symmetrical Fort Pitt and Fort Duquesne bridges. It's also kind of cool to see when the new bridge is there and the old bridge hasn't been demolished yet. There's many cases like that. much as I love the time slider, I didn't want that to be the only way users could interact with the map. Somebody could be interested in a bridge but not know when it existed. So I also added a list of all the bridges that ever existed in the city in alphabetical order. Users can click any bridge to zoom to it, give it that same cyan affordance and larger symbol, and see its details. Also notice that the map updates to the year that bridge was built, so you can see what else existed in the city at that time. There's also a search box, so that if you know the name of a bridge, or you want to look at, you have an idea of what a bridge might be called, for example 10th Street, you can start typing in the name. You can see there are 3 10th Street bridges. You can click the one you're interested in. And there's the second 10th Street bridge. It will zoom to it, same cyan highlight and larger circle, and give you the details panel. I'm ecstatic about how the map turned out, but I've certainly noticed a few things I would like to consider as possible enhancements. I developed the map using Chrome, and I recently noticed that it does not display in the same way in Safari. With help from Rich, I would like to make some tweaks to the CSS so the design can display consistently across all major browsers. Also, though outside the scope of this course, I would love to create a responsive version of the map that would work on a phone and a tablet. I chose to symbolize bridges by their design type, but one cool potential enhancement would allow users to switch between design type symbology and road and bridge use symbology, for example, vehicular, railroad, pedestrian, or aqueduct. By symbolizing the data in a different way, users would have even more opportunities to explore the data and make their own discoveries.